The first time Bruce Banner turned into the Hulk, nobody was angry. And you know the rule. You've heard it your whole life. He gets angry, he gets strong. Except issue 1 breaks that rule on page 5. No fight, no insult, nobody even raised their voice. The sun went down. That was the entire trigger. So why does the origin break the one rule everyone knows? What actually set him off, if not rage? And if anger was never the engine, what exactly is he? Because Marvel is answering that question right now in the cruelest way possible. In the comics currently on shelves, Bruce Banner is walking around without the Hulk. Something tore the monster out of him and kept the body. And when we get to what's wearing him now, down to the color of the thing, the anger story won't just sound wrong. It'll sound like something we made up because the truth was worse. But the ending only lands if you see the first night first. 1962, an army base, and nobody in that room knew what they were about to lock in.
Bruce Banner has just saved a teenager's life out on a bomb range and taken a full dose of gamma radiation doing it. He should be dead. He isn't. So the army locks him and the kid in a room and waits. And here's the panel nobody shows you. The kid looks out of the window and says it's getting dark out and asks how much longer they're being kept in here. That's it. That's your trigger. Think about how small that is. There's a moon in the window in the very next panel. Banner says his head is throbbing and he thinks this is the end. A Geiger counter in the room starts clicking and won't stop. And then the kid turns round and tells him he has changed. That's the full scene. So what have we actually got on that page? Not a rage story, nothing close to one. Nobody threatens him, nobody insults him. His pulse isn't the mechanism. The sun goes down and he becomes something else, which makes the original Hulk a werewolf rather than a temper. But the first thing he says is stranger than the change.
Picture his first words. What are you expecting? A roar, probably. Something about smashing. What he actually says to a frightened teenager is, "Get out of my way, insect." That's a complete sentence with a sneer in it. He's articulate, he's sarcastic. He's looking down on people, which is the opposite of losing control and much closer to a gothic monster than anything you've been sold since. Then he does something that should really stop you. He breaks out of a locked chamber, scatters a squad of soldiers, turns, and says he has to get away. He has to hide. Read that again. The first Hulk story isn't a rampage, it's the hiding story. A page later, he's crouched in the dark while a patrol runs past him, thinking they mustn't find him. And the thing you were told is a walking tantrum is frightened of being seen. One person goes with him. Rick Jones, the kid he saved, chases him into the night, shouting that he's coming too. But the color of the thing they're both walking into is about to cause Marvel a problem. Because the Hulk in that first issue isn't green, he's gray. Stan Lee picked gray deliberately, so the character wouldn't read as any particular group of people. And it was a good instinct that turned into a printing disaster. Picture opening that comic in 1962 and finding the monster is a different color on every page. Light gray here, nearly black there, almost green over the page. The presses simply couldn't hold the tone. So what actually made the Hulk green? A printing press. Lee had him colored green from issue 2, and nobody ever explained it inside the story. The most famous color in comics is an accident. Hold on to that, because the ending of this video is built on it. But first, the comics had to work out what he actually is.
Now, jump with me to 2018 and a run that took the night seriously. In the first issue, armed men barricade themselves into a room, listening to something outside. Their leader tells them to hold the line, because whoever is out there can't stay out in the dark forever. They're exactly wrong. You see the problem, don't you? The dark is where he lives. A green hand comes straight through the wall and takes the man mid-sentence. That's the whole reframe in one panel. The Hulk stops being a superhero with a bad temper and starts being the thing on the other side of the wall. And the writer isn't inventing that. Remember the hiding story? He's putting it back. The Thing from page 5 in 1962, the monster that hides in the dark and doesn't want to be found. But then he asks the question the character had been dodging since that first night on the base.
A few pages later, the Hulk has hold of the man who shot Bruce Banner. And look at how the page is drawn, because the staging is doing the whole argument for him. 5 panels, 1 camera position, and a full moon behind his head in every single one. You aren't watching a fight, you're watching an interrogation. The man pleads. He says he didn't want this. He says he made a mistake, and hasn't everybody made a mistake? Then he asks the question you can hear yourself asking. I'm not a bad guy, am I? And the Hulk grins. It takes 4 panels for that grin to finish. Then he answers it with 2 words. What do you think? No punch, no smash. The scariest thing this character has ever done is decline to let a guilty man off. So he isn't a rampage. He's a question the guilty have to answer. But there's one person who'd have paid anything never to hear it.
Bruce Banner has only ever wanted one thing, and it was never control. It was separation. Cut the thing out of me. Let me be a man who goes to bed and wakes up as himself. Every version of him has chased it. Cures, machines, chambers, deals. Imagine one of those offered to you tonight. Which would you refuse? And the tragedy the comics keep coming back to is that the two of them were never 2 people sharing a coat. Whatever the Hulk is, he's made out of Bruce. Take one out, and you don't get a man. You get a hole where the man used to be. Not from a cure and not from a machine, but from something that wanted the body. So what happens when Bruce Banner finally gets his wish?
Marvel's current Hulk book does exactly that to him. Something called The Eldest has torn Bruce Banner and the Hulk apart and taken the Hulk's body for itself. And Banner is walking around with no powers at all, trying to stop it from outside. So he got precisely what he asked for. The monster is out of him, and it can't be put back, which makes it the worst thing that has ever happened to him, because the Hulk was the only thing standing between the rest of us and what's wearing him now. Can you imagine it? Every cure he ever chased, granted by the last thing you would want granting it. And look at the thing itself. It isn't green. It's gray and purple, with a green crack running down its face, as if something split it open from the inside and the light is getting out. Which is the rhyme this whole thing has been walking towards. He started gray. 60 years later, with Bruce Banner finally out of him, he's gray again. So the most famous color in comics wasn't just an accident. It was a coat of paint over what he actually is. And look again at where the green lives now. Not on him. In the crack. And the horror in that book isn't the size of him. Early in the first issue, a veteran called Bridger is holding a line in the rain while a town evacuates, and a young soldier tells him he's a war hero. And you can hear what's coming. Bridger tells him that's the opposite of a hero kid. Later, the soldiers he lost stand back up with green light in their eyes and call him by name. They ask him to come down. They remind him he said he'd look out for them. And the last thing they say to him is, "You promised." That's what this book does with guilt now. It walks up and uses your own name. But the odd part is where all of that leaves him for everyone who only knows him from a cinema seat. So here's where the Hulk actually stands today. Mark Ruffalo plays Banner again in Spider-Man Brand New Day, in theaters right now, and it just posted the biggest opening day in box office history. But he hasn't headlined his own film since 2008. There's no World War Hulk movie in development, whatever the fan trailers all over the internet keep telling you, and his name is nowhere on the announced lineup for Avengers Doomsday in December. The Hulk who did get promoted is a red one. We saw it happen on screen.
Thaddeus Ross, the general who spent decades hunting him, turning into the exact thing he spent his life hunting. Meanwhile, the comics went the other way entirely. A week ago at San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel announced 4 more of these. The Infernal Hulk against Wolverine, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the Avengers, all running into a Hulk war next year. So picture the two halves side by side. What do you get? The strangest position any Marvel character is in. The screen version of him is a supporting player who turns up, does the scary thing, and leaves. On the page, he no longer exists as himself at all. And if you only ever remember one thing about him, on screen or on the page, don't make it the anger. Make it the window. A frightened man in a locked room. A kid saying it's getting dark. And something that arrives when the light goes. That's what he is. Anger was never the engine. It was only ever the part we could stand to call it.